going on? We about to talk about David Pakman. This dude hate Trump so bad. He's looking for any kind of excuse. Think it just, you're lost. Just get over it. Get over it and move on. Let's check out this video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I want to take a little look at it. All right. See what the heck he's talking about.
It's great to welcome to the program today, Sam Wolfson.
Let me slow this down a little bit. Slow this down. Because I know the average person will listen to stuff like that.
Who's a senior features writer and editor at The Guardian. Sam, it's so great to have you on. You know, you wrote this piece looking at the effect of the podcasting sort of creator, online influencer space on the 2024 election. A lot has been made from different people as to the degree to which not doing the Rogan interview by Kamala Harris influenced the election. To translate my view so that you know, I think that that was representative of a lack of online plan. I don't think that one non-interview really was the difference maker, but I want to hear from you. I mean, how much influence?
They'll say, y'all be sleeping like 3 to 5 hours. I ain't gonna front. I've been trying to get more. I'm used to like two to 3, and then I started getting like maybe around maybe 3 to 5. But then I went on vacation recently, and that got me a little more used to like 6.
Did the podcasting and creator space have on this?
But now that I've been back off vacation, I ain't going front. I'm getting back on my around like what you were saying, 3 to 5. Yeah, I'm doing like 3 to 5. But the time frame that I'm doing it is more so afternoon. And then I'm back up running around.
Election, first of all, and then we'll talk about maybe the approach that the Harris campaign took.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on. And I think, you know, the first thing to say is anyone who kind of completely believes that the Democrats' attitude to podcasts like define the election is clearly wrong. You know, there's a million factors, but I think it's an important one. And I think that it's not so much about the Democrats' inability to work in this space, but the Republicans' mastery of it, and not just focusing.
Yes, if she did go to Joe Rogan, she still would have lost, but by more. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'll be honest with you. I think she would have got exposed on Joe Rogan.
On this campaign and doing a couple of quick hits. But over a long period of time, I think what the right in general has been really effective at doing is transforming Donald Trump into a figure for whom, you know, a certain number of people think he's a genius and brilliant, and a certain number of people he is absolute kryptonite, can't be touched. You know,
right.
I think of that Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where he wears the hat as a way of getting people away from him. You know, that kind of attitude.
I still got to finish Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think I only went through like about 3 seasons. No, maybe 2. I think I only watched 2 seasons. I'm tripping. Yeah, I got to finish binge watching
to the point where we are now.
I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. So.
Now, where there's a lot of people who have kind of not just normalized him, but think he's bad, but he's maybe better than the elite alternative, who think, yeah, he's got some weird views, but he's going to shake things up. They have made it acceptable for a much larger group of people to be okay with supporting Trump or having sympathies for Trump. And I think that podcasters, particularly podcasters outside of the traditional political space,
right,
have been really effective in doing that.
Having sympathies for Trump? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Are we not supposed to sympathize or empathize whenever something happened? Because there's only one event he probably could be talking about.
I think that it's very important to talk about this in terms of within the political space and outside of it, because I've talked about my experience. I requested an interview with the VP a few times, and it was either, and they know me at the White House. It's not like I'm saying this is to my contacts, right? They know me, I've been there, etc. And it was either,
nigga, they don't know you. Why look like he about to cry? Why look like this nigga tear it up. They don't know you at no White House, you liar. Look at him. They know him at the White House. They don't know you at your corner store. When you go to get eggs from the grocery store, they don't know you. Unless they're annoyed by you. Your crying self. You crying during a conversation right now. You're tearing up. Yeah, it's wild.
We might be able to set something up if you can meet us at a campaign event to which you'd have to travel, or we're just not really sure, or I don't hear back at all. And Brian Tyler Cohen has also talked about this, where even just accepting those interviews close to the election doesn't have the same effect that this ecosystem has when everybody's kind of hanging out, they're comfortable environments, it's not super uptight in terms of what you're allowed to ask, etc. But this goes beyond the political space because there's a lot of people who just don't watch shows like mine. And then it becomes more about the ways to...
You damn straight. If they got some sense, they don't watch no show like yours. They got any sense.
Enter the culture, it would seem to me, where the candidate is personified and relatable, and in these other environments that are less overtly political talk. What do you think? I know I just said a lot, but does that resonate with your perspective?
Completely. And I mean, I wrote this in the piece, but in the first Trump election, when Steve Bannon was masterminding a lot of what was going on, he always said politics is downstream of culture, right? And that was the kind of founding principle of Breitbart. And I think they were very successful with older voters in hitting a bunch of cultural notes about immigration, about abortion, about, all kinds of quote.
People ain't watching this show because this show's trash. That's what he don't understand.
Quite silly things that like Democrats don't want to deal with, like, Christmas and things like that, and creating kind of mountains out of molehills and finding the political through that way. What's happened in this election is that people like Theo Von, like Joe Rogan, like the kind of Kill Tony universe, who are not overtly political, but have managed to blend a bit of...
I rock with everybody he just said too, by the way. I've watched all their shows. Now, do I frequently watch? Not as much as I used to, because now I'm getting into the creation side myself.
Kind of humor, politics, attitude, lifestyle, all together in a way that like actually really helps Trump. And I think like one of the ways it's so powerful is that it reduced the stakes of the election, because the Democrats kept saying, this is the most important election of your lifetime. Democracy is on the line. And if you believe that, then it's really hard to vote for Trump. But these podcasts and this world says, no, it's not. This is another kind of power play by the elites that's got nothing to do with you. And this guy is kind of...
So you mad because podcasters stopped y'all from fear-mongering? You mad? Because podcasters said, don't listen to the fear-mongers?
Cool and funny and like, and memeable and we can be a bit sympathetic towards him. And so I think like what to your point about the VP not coming on your show and that kind of like politicking, the right-wing sphere has been really smart at going, it's not actually about those one hits. It's about how you like create an atmosphere and a world in which, I think Theo Von is a really interesting example. He's had a lot of the main figures from the Republican Party on his podcast, right? He's had Trump, he's had JD Vance, he's had people like Tommy Lauren, he's had RFK, he's had Jordan Peterson, right? But he also has like...
I didn't even notice. I changed the picture on the screen. That's crazy. This Ben Grimm looking ass thing. What is the thing from Fantastic Four talking about? Sitting here looking like the thumb monster from Spy Kids. What is he talking about?
James Blake, the producer. And he has John Mulaney on, and like, I just think by combining those kind of liberal guests or culture guests, comedy guests with these right-wing figures, you kind of say like, oh, these people are all worth listening to equally, right? And I think that actually the kind of deplatforming tendency in the left, or like the kind of ignoring tendency, has just created that division, whereas these guys have kind of, seemingly welcomed a lot more people in, and I think normalized really dangerous figures.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, as you point out, if you are hearing on political outlets that Trump is authoritarian, he doesn't respect the rule of law, all of the things that I believe are true that were being said. But then you kind of see him hanging out for 90 minutes with the Nelk boys talking about golfing and women.
No, this sound like envy, jealousy. They sound like mad jealousy. Why aren't they watching my podcast? Because you trash. Because you drink not entertaining. Nobody want to hear you cry.
And betting and sports and this sort of thing. It kind of just like it files down the edges a little bit, and it's just sort of like, I don't know, I'm not thrilled with Biden. This probably is fine. How bad can it really be? He seems to get along fine with the Nelk boys. It sort of seems to be the point you're making.
Totally. And I think that the one that really stood out to me, because it basically, if you let anyone talk for 90 minutes unchallenged in a kind of sympathetic environment, then you give them at least humanity. I was really struck by a Pete.
Excuse me?
Hegseth interview.
Oh, I thought you said something else. So are you saying that we shouldn't give humans humanity? Are you saying that, which is what it sounds like, are you saying Trump is less than because you don't agree with him politically? This is what they think about you. When you're conservative or if you're on the right, why would they talk to him like he's a human? What's up with that? What?
On the Sean Ryan show, which is actually one of the most popular podcasts on Spotify.
This is so crazy.
And, Hegseth, I think, is probably as close to sort of evil incarnate as any human being can be. He really believes some truly heinous, terrible things and virulently believes them, more so, I would say, than even Trump.
Yeah.
But if you have someone like that on for 90 minutes, let them ramble and talk about their life, of course it softens them. Of course it makes them seem more human.
It's crazy. You read what y'all said? You said the idea that Kamala Harris lost this election for any other reason than extreme. What the hell? I don't got my glasses on. I'm about to have me looking crazy sounding that out too. Religiosity. Okay. Vigiliosity. I don't know how I'm pronouncing that. Either way. I get what you mean.
And it allows them to kind of sneak in some really, really horrendous, very fascistic talking points.
And I keep talking shit about my glasses.
And I think that the length of these podcasts is a huge factor.
They're literally in the damn cabinet. I have not got my glasses out since I came back from vacation. That's why I keep looking at the big screen over here.
In their success, they wear you down. They kind of just are like a nice thing in the background. They're not like Fox News. They're not like Breitbart. They're not trying to scare you and tell you that everything's going to be terrible. In fact, they're the opposite. They say everything's going to be fine. Let's let these guys have a go. Don't worry about it.
You write that sometimes in the cultural podcasts that are not overtly political, there can be racism, misogyny, etc., that just doesn't really get the attention that it may when something happens more overtly in the news or politics space. Can you talk a little bit about why that is?
Zoomed in like
I think the first thing is the length, right? That most people in media criticism don't have time to listen to an unbelievable amount of.
Am I pronouncing it wrong still? My bad. I don't want to make the whole segment about that, but I thought I said that right. I went from roasting my mom because she used to have to put the magnifying glasses on to now I think I need them joints. Yeah, no, that's what I just said. But let me know if I'm pronouncing it wrong still.
Hours of material, just a huge amount that is being put out. I mean, even Rogan alone, who I don't think is especially racist or right wing, but he puts out about 12 or 13 hours of podcasts a week, and it follows on. So I think that one thing is just there's just not enough time to give it all attention. And then also I think that there's a lack of, or certainly up to now, there's been a lack of understanding of.
Even more correct the first time, actually. I thought I was sounding crazy. Religiosity. Yeah, that's what I said the first time. You had me thinking I said it wrong. I just said it slower.
The influence that these people have, so like there is actually an infrastructure.
It's cool, 'cause look,
great work.
I appreciate that, because if I do get it wrong, you guys can help me out. So I do appreciate that. But yeah, that's what I thought I said the first time, but I just said it slower because I was looking, and then I had to look at my big screen or my bigger screen over here. I was like, yeah. But you had me thinking I said it wrong.
Being done by Media Matters for America and a number of other people in looking at every single thing that happens on Fox News and pulling it apart. And if there's a segment that like falls, foul, they'll make a big deal of it, and then you'll see it on the Daily Show, etc. Whereas I just think like one of the successes of this entire space has been its ability to go under the radar, and just like reach a huge audience without realizing the same kind of level of analysis.
Why do you think the top podcasts lean right wing, or what we might call right wing adjacent, which is, I think, as you're talking,
this sounds like hate right now, It sounds like he's so envious.
About, I've talked about how the manosphere shows, the business and entrepreneurship shows, the fitness shows, a lot of times they're kind of cultivating a sort of right-wing environment, even if they're not overtly right-wing. What
you need to start watching manosphere shows. You need to start tuning in. That's what David Wackman need to check out.
Is there something about the format that lends itself more to that ideology or messaging?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because like Spotify it skews much younger, right, than other kind of apps. So you're looking at a young audience, and you would think that there would be a kind of you wouldn't see so many figures like Tucker Carlson and maybe like Dax Shepard and stuff on there, but there they all are. Spotify just released their top 50 podcasts in the US for the entire year. Joe Rogan was number one, then Call Her Daddy, which is maybe, the one kind of more slightly liberally minded podcast in the space. Then Theo Von and
that podcast, liberal as hell.
Then Tucker Carlson at 6, Huberman at 7, so it's just like, and Sean Ryan at 10 of the year, which I think is really interesting. He's such a kind of influential figure as well. And I just think that these guys have found a way of reaching this audience that has like, I think liberals don't really want to make necessarily that same kind of content, like we want to make highly produced, highly fact-checked, news-based podcasts, and I just think they aren't they don't create the same kind of relationship with the listeners. I think that's what...
No, here it is. Left podcasts suck. Especially if this is what you got. David Wackman, that's your example, nigga? This is trash. That's what it sounds like you're describing as entertaining versus garbage. The podcast we watching would be on a garbage side. You would be right on that garbage side if I'm just being honest with Wackman. Right? Let's do this. Trash. Crybabies. This is what this whole joint is.
One thing. The other thing that I think is really important, and there's been some really good reporting on this today by the Young Men Research Initiative, which I'd encourage people to check out. But
didn't she? No, she didn't go on that. Wait, no, she did go on that, didn't she? Oh, am I tripping? Did Kamala did go on that, right? Maybe I just imagine seeing a clip of that. I'm talking about they're somewhat liberal. No, they're pretty damn liberal. That's a pretty liberal damn podcast. And she sure enough did go on there. That's crazy. She did go on there. Yeah. It's about somewhat. They liberal as hell. And they faked the whole set.
There's just the most huge amount of money being put into these podcasts, not just to paying the influencers to make this stuff and giving them, being able to, that this can be their main job, but also it's like a huge infrastructure of activists, of promotion. I mean, they're estimating that overall the
You talking about I don't know why my show trash. Nigga, your show garbage. Your show trash, nigga. Nobody
System
like it.
targeting young people and their
That's what I'm
media
talking about.
had 1.2 billion with a B dollars of investment, and them specifically looking at kind of influencers and podcasters, that's 400 million. And that's coming from all these from Real Clear Foundation, from Project Veritas, from PragerU. And so like, as much as there is a kind of organic feeling to some of these shows, there is also an unbelievable amount of money being put behind them, including, Barstool and the Nelk Boys and everything else.
So to that, what is it that the left needs to do? I mean, on one hand, I do think that the lack of funding is a problem.
Is he really begging for not only listeners, but for funding for your whack ass podcast? That's how you get better ratings. Do better. Well, for Wackman, I don't think he can, right? The grift is all he can do to get people to click on it. I don't think he got anything else. He don't have no talent. He ain't funny.
I mean, you can do a lot better than you're doing without some big funding kind of being dumped in the way some of these right-wing networks have, but it certainly would make it easier and I think more tractable if there was some kind of broader systemic funding of a left-wing ecosystem. But like, what sort of needs to happen in your mind?
I don't know. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because like, you see,
you could get better. Call me crazy. You can do better content. Call me a madman. You said, does the Joe Rogan podcast offer anything more than entertainment? When has Rogan offered anything that resembles anything of substance? That's funny. It depends, right? I've seen some Joe Rogan podcast episodes that actually did educate me on a few things or make me want to go and look stuff up. He's always having like scientists on there all the time, right? Debating certain people. So I do think that it has some kind of content. It is entertaining, but it also does have something that adds value, I would say, right? Personally, right? I was loving that Cat Williams interview he did. That was fire. But there's a few other ones. Like with Joe Rogan, is more so, do I know the person who's on there? Right? If it's some comedians, I know they're going to tell some dope stories or give a comedic take on things that's going on in society, or maybe even MMA. I watch a lot of his MMA stuff too as well. Right? So it is entertaining, way more entertaining than Wackman over here. But it also can give you some educational value.
Something like
depending.
The Pod Save America network or whatever, they've got a lot of funding. They've got a lot of shows. They were number 37, their main podcast on that list of the year, And so I think it is really hard to break through. But I think that one of the things has to be to not, that the left has to be careful not to eat its own and destroy itself. We get very nervous when there's a slightly populist figure speaking directly to people, and there's always a kind of backlash and resistance. And I think that, I think there has to be a kind of broader acceptance of those kinds of voices. I think that people, this huge amount of money.
So all this is people hating and you telling them that they should stop hating? This nigga, we watching a counseling session? The hell are we looking at?
Was wasted. There's no other word for it, on the Harris campaign, doing stupid things like investing in, the Las Vegas sphere or whatever, and phone banking and things that clearly just wasn't working. And I think that some of that money could be invested more riskily. Like one thing about Peter Thiel with all the things that he chucks money at is that they don't all work, right? He's got a space in downtown Manhattan now where like neo-Nazis can hang out and have cocktails for free.
I knew I was about to cut this off. I should have cut it off.
He's got like various blogs.
Some told me that we wasn't going to get nothing else from this. Something told me we wasn't going to get nothing else. Let's finish it.
Substacks and things that he's just chucking money around. He doesn't really know if it's going to work, but clearly he's been able to fund a kind of ecosystem of right wingers that's had the overall effect of helping people. And so, I think some of these some of these groups are going to have to take a risk on some people, let them have a go, and we're going to have to see. And I think that is really, really hard for Democrats because it involves losing a bit of control. And
I think that gets at a really important point, which is a lot of the people that are funding Charlie Kirk's podcast, they're not listening to Charlie Kirk's podcast. They don't really care about the ratings of Charlie Kirk's podcast. It's just they're funding that and donating to Trump. And they're
such a hater. Yo, this dude is one of the biggest haters on YouTube. Holy smokes. This thing is a hater.
Members to the Daily Wire, and they're going to Tucker Carlson's events. And, I'm talking about at the individual level, but also like at the systemic level. My conversations on the left with people who talk to the folks that might want to do this is always so careful and listen.
You said, oh no. You're right. You're correct. Rogan's guests offer intelligent content. Rogan have. And I say this and no intent. Yeah, that's crazy. You don't think he does? It's huge no.
They're willing to kind of do like 12,000 in the next quarter, distributed among 100 influencers to do one video. It's just not good. There's no way. It's sort of like when an advertiser comes to me, now it's to our ad sales team and says, we'd like to advertise. We want to buy one spot on your podcast. And we just say, it's just not even worth it.
This nigga here got a whole team crying. You just said you had a team and you crying? Like maybe you should tell your team to focus on boosting your entertainment value.
It's a lot of work for us to produce a spot for only to use it once. You running one spot is not going to give you results that you're happy with. It won't work for anybody. And that's the sort of feeling I get when sometimes I hear about these conversations.
It sounds like he's jealous as hell because his show sucks and he's not getting a certain result that he wants.
With the potential funders of a left-wing ecosystem where it's like, we're already thinking about it the wrong way.
Yeah. I totally agree. And I mean, look, you would know better. You're in this space and you're trying to do something that there aren't that many left-wing voices doing this kind of thing. And I think I don't know. It's very difficult because there is a kind of natural aversion, I think, in the left to like raising personalities and like having that kind of mix of culture and politics. And also like, because they've been so effective, I think, at making it cool. Like I've lived through a number of cycles of like it being cool to care about activism and then it being cool to be nihilistic,
Right.
I would say I've been through like, I used to work at Vice. I went through many of those cycles there, like.
No, you worked at Vice?
And now we are in a space where it's like cool to be nihilistic. It's cool to not care. It's cool to say it's all bullshit. And I think like, you're now
this just sounds like cope. This sounds like cope for you guys not being able to put out entertaining content that people would want to see.
Really uphill place to try and find a way to not just get people engaged, but do it in a way that feels better than what they're doing, which is like having fun and having parties. It's difficult. It's really difficult.
So have fun. What are you talking about?
I'll admit, when I see the videos of everybody hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, I understand why they're committed to the movement. I mean, it's just like, it's fun.
Okay, I had enough of this. I had enough of that. All right, come on. Making bullcrap excuses for why you suck. Nigga, you just suck. It's okay. Well, maybe not for you. But whatever. The people that watch you, just appreciate them. Yeah, it sounds like he's jealous as hell. Rogan is popular because he doesn't challenge the audience. I don't know if that's true. I think people enjoy his content. While the message you're telling counts a lot too. True. 100%. 100%. I think that a lot of podcasters or people that are putting out content, right? Like it's either in their minds, you're either gonna be on this one side where you're saying a bunch of bull crap, like David Pakman, Are you going to be on the side that's actually putting out good, entertaining content, right? Or even outside of woke, left, right, whatever, podcasting in general. If you want to be an educational podcast or a podcast that just talks about your opinions, and fine. But you can't be surprised that an entertainment podcast or a podcast that's putting the entertainment of their audience first is doing better. And yes, I am a entertainment channel. Can you learn stuff here? Sure. Will I learn stuff here? Sure. But I am here for your entertainment. I'm here to entertain my audience and be myself. If that's what I'm doing, then I don't care about nothing else. None of that other stuff matters. Am I entertaining you guys? Am I, being true to myself? Then I don't care about nothing else. Personally. Right? Where David Pakman or David Wackman is losing is not only is he not telling the truth and being dishonest and being a piece of crap, not only is he doing that, but also you not entertaining. Nigga, I don't know, learn how to juggle something. Stop blaming people on the right for you being trash, nigga. How about that? Right. It's all about sincerity, authenticity. Right. And making content that not only you vouch for, but that your supporters will want to see or like seeing and enjoy. I think that's where a lot of Whackmans and people like that, they struggle. Like, it's like if you come on YouTube and you start doing whatever content you're doing, okay, maybe you build a little bit of a following. Maybe it's not as big as the biggest content creators, but to sit there and just be hating and mad, sound like you miserable. Why can't I get as much as them? That sounds corny to me. It sounds corny as hell, but that's just my opinion. You said no one wants to go on a podcast that's going to talk over you or lets you say what you got to say, at least. Yeah. Right. He's not a good host. That's really all it is. He's not a good host. Right. He has a whole team to put out that bull crap. Yeah. You know what I would be able to do if I had a team? The amount of work I would get done. Let me get an editor that's like willing to edit for me daily for whenever I live stream. Blow people out the water. No destiny. That's a new drink you got to say now. No destiny. No destiny. But yeah. I think let me see. You already know what time it is. Yeah, I ran through all of those. Right.